real long story, but to make it short, I was just an average student at best. I did everything I could to have fun, and everything I could do not to study. And I just skimmed by until I was a senior, and I realized, what, I've thrown it all away. I need to straighten up. My senior year, I took all the heavy courses and had all A's, and that guy had been a C student my whole life. I realized I had potential. And I had a guidance counselor who made me mad by saying I was not college material. And in spite of her, I went on and tried to, I was on the D's list, getting the highest scores on some of the tests. And all the teachers would say, the highest score on the test again was Joe Pye. My family was, it was a hardship to send me to college. So I was under constant pressure to perform because I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want them to have wasted their money. So everybody would look around these students like, wow, where's he come from? And so it was just like I caught fire, and all through college I did real well. And I realized that you have to have a cheerleader and you have to have support to be able to reach your dreams. I always kind of had the background. I wanted to major in education, but I majored in business administration and marketing and personnel management. And so I was driven to do that. My first job was in the financial business, and it was not a real good experience because I realized that I wanted to help people. I didn't want to stick them with loans that they couldn't afford to do. I couldn't talk them into spending money they didn't have. And I realized, so I quit my job, and I went to tell my wife that and she was a teacher at the former school that we grew up in, and principal saw her being upset and me telling her the news, and he came up and he questioned. He said, well, you don't need to be in the business world anyway. You're a gifted teacher. That's what you should be doing. I'm going, what? He said, you used to take over the class while your teacher would come down and help us in the office. So I think that's what you ought to do. Let me send you out as a student teacher. I'm going, but I can't afford to go back to college. We're newlyweds and we need money coming in. I can't afford it. And so he sent me out that day. My first day there in Charleston County at Alice Burney School, I was in the Teacher of the Year's class, board chairman, student was there, the principal student child was there. So these were all the movers and shakers, and they were in and out of my room all day long. And I was questioning, they don't think I'm doing a good job. It was just the opposite. That night I was offered the job. I was the last non-certified teacher to be hired in Charleston County. My whole philosophy had been all the way through school, I never felt I could measure up. I was always still tagged with that average thing, and I felt I had to keep competing with myself to do the best I could, and I was very successful, but I never would accept that. I never felt I could quite measure up, and I guess that's what drove me my whole career, was trying to always keep up. Once I got in there with those kids, I realized I'm a kid person. I'm a teacher.
Working in DD2 and hearing his name when he was a superintendent, just little stories on how he was with teams, engagement with the community. Kids came first. It was just somebody that I wanted to sit down and just hear his story. Wesley Slusher, school resource officer and the host of the Watchmen. So it's a podcast to share all things safety and community at Rollins Middle School of Arts. Showcase the kids' talent, the youth's talent, art showcases, band, vocal, dance, engagement with the community. Have guest speakers on of their influences, what they've done in the community to promote DD2 and to promote Rollins Middle School of Arts. So there were several names that have come across, but there was one name that stood out, and that was Mr. Joseph R. Pye. Somebody that spent as long as he did in public education, and the passion and the drive, not only what he did for the children, but what he did for the community in itself in Dorchester County and DD2 was somebody that inspired me, and I definitely wanted to sit down and speak with him about his journey.
It's so inspiring. It's so inspiring. It really, and sitting here talking to you, I see the passion. The passion is still there. I see it. You can't hide that.
I left University of South Carolina and I came back to Charleston Southern my last year, when 21 hours to graduate. I finished school there. Of course, the blessing is that's when my wife and I, we've been friends. We've known each other since we were 6 years old. But we started dating, and that's how we ended up getting married. And of course, she's a school teacher, and that was a great influence on me too, because as I started out, she kept pushing me to do things, and she's very creative. And I didn't realize how creative I was. And that was my success as a teacher, was creativity. I did things no other teacher did. I taught reading in my science class. I had children on 3 different levels, multiple choice questions for their test, down to essay questions, depending on the type of student it was. And my philosophy, my whole 6 years of teaching was no child will fail, and no child ever failed. I had children who had failed everything, and the parents would question why they have a B or a D, because I motivated the students. I gave them what I didn't think I ever had. I felt like if I'd have had that push, I could have achieved much earlier. And I was blessed. God blessed me to be able to still overcome that and to grow into the roles that I had during my lifetime. But a lot of kids don't have that opportunity. Right? And so so we have to, in the education field, open those doors for kids. I was the last person to leave the building every day, and I was the first one there the next day. I lived and breathed school. I get home, I get so excited planning the lesson for the next day. Of course, my wife had to help me. I'm like, is this right? And they had me teaching language arts, and here I am doing diagramming sentences and stuff like this. And I'm like, I'm good at this. I can do this. I remember doing this in college, in high school, and then they put me in math, which was not my era. I had a hard time in math. But I realized that the kids did too, and somebody had to be an adult in the room, and so it was going to be me. I went back, it was 7th grade, and I had them do the multiplication tables. They didn't know them. So I went back to basic facts, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And that's how I got them to be able to perform and to do. And we did it to song. So again, I was very creative. And then I get so excited how well they would do. I get disappointed. I give a test and the grades were so low. And then finally, when I started seeing the progress and kids were learning, I remember apologizing in the 7th grade to most of the parents that, I'm leaving the school, I'm going to Somerville, but I wish I could have done more with the child. I feel like I didn't do enough because this was not my area of expertise, but I did the best I could. I've not applied for any job except my original teaching job at Rollins. All of the jobs I was really forced to take. They called me and told me, you will be this and you'll be this. And so I was at Newington to open up Newington as an assistant principal. To be honest with you, that was not my favorite job. I felt like I was spending so much time with discipline and those kinds of things and books and all the minutiae. And I didn't have a chance to enjoy kids, but I started the first gifted program in Somerville. I started at Newington called the Dolphins. I just enjoyed it. Then I realized again, I missed teaching. So I was going to leave. I went and talked to the superintendent. He said, well, we're opening up Flowertown School and the board wants you. I said, well, I don't want it. I mean, it's hard to teach a child to read and they don't know the ABCs. I mean, you say A, B, C, D. Now you come back and tell me, and they go A, F, G. That's not correct. I realized then that I was a very teacher-oriented person, and I wanted teachers to have what I necessarily did not have, and what I had at Rollins. I wanted them to have the same thing. So I emulated the principal I had at Rollins. And Mr. DeBose, the superintendent, was a great inspiration also. He rode me. I thought he was going to fire me all the time. Why did you do so and so? I said, Mr. DeBose, because this is the right thing to do. Well, some of your teachers have complained, and they love you to death, and they're not going to tell you that they're disappointed, but they don't understand why you want to do this. That's because it's not right to do. It's not the best thing for children. Right? And I'm not going to do it. So I was to the point that I could go to Rollins any day. I already had my job at Rollins. So you were ready to go back. So
Well, if it didn't work out, I'm
so the
going
first
back.
time, if you don't like it, then guess what? I'm out of here. I didn't want to be here in the first place. But after about the second or third year at Flowertown, I finally gave in and told the teachers, listen, y'all know a lot more than I do, and I'll quit trying to lead you. You're going to have to help lead me. So we became a team, and that's when I realized the importance of team. Started at Flowertown. We were a team, a solid team. There was no weak link.
Right.
I could tell them, I mean, I'll never forget this story. I said, if we have a teacher that come in here and pass out drunk on the thing, nobody's going to ask any questions. Nobody's going to say anything to anybody. You're going to help pick her up, and you can get her into a private space, and we'll take care of her health-wise after that. You understand? We're a family, and we don't talk our business outside. We're the best school in Somerville. You're the best teachers. I'm the best principal. That was my philosophy. And we're going to be the best. Everybody else is trying to catch us.
In doing this, once I sat down and the cameras were rolling, you know, I'm sitting with a man that's a legacy he's left behind. But the emotion and the passion in speaking to him was just overwhelming. His story, he created a family. It was a culture. We take care of our home. And he couldn't get to the places that he was without a team. And hearing his story, the first one to get to work, the last one to leave, a team philosophy, the Palmetto's Finest First Award, and all the awards, 10 awards, 10 different schools that got this award. He never settled for less. And just to hear that his drive was, nobody's going to tell me I can't do it. And it was all for the children. Very, very inspiring.
It's just like a team in sports. You work hard, you practice, but what is the ultimate thing when you win the national championship and you're holding that trophy? You know now why it was worth it, and you know what it took to get there.
Right.
So I didn't have to preach anymore after that. The teachers knew we were going to be the very best. The way they dressed, I was the only school in the district that had really a dress code. My teachers weren't allowed to wear shorts, and we were discouraging wearing the pants. They would wear dresses and skirts and things, and they would go, Mr. Powell, we're on the floor with these little kids and stuff. We can't do this. I said, well, you're at Flowertown. We're gonna be the very best. When people walk in here, they're gonna see, without a doubt, this is a school different than anything we've ever seen. Right. And that's what parents would tell me. The only negative I ever got, and that was on several things we went for accreditation, I guess, and we were going for Palmetto's Finest, and they interviewed the parents. I'd ask, was there a concern? And Mr. Powell, there's an overwhelming concern. The parents want Flowertown to go into 12th grade. It's all about teamwork. My leadership style is shared leadership. I finally realized you surround yourself with the very best, and you motivate them to rise to a high level. And as they rise, they're taking you up. I found myself I had a cabinet of 24 when I left. I probably was maybe I might have been 15th in my knowledge level of the group. Mm-hmm. I had a powerful group, and they led and helped me, and we made joint decisions. We celebrated together, and we cried together. Mm-hmm. And we get up and we said, listen, we're not having this. In other words, never will I be confronted with this again. And so y'all will have to help me through this. So we did everything together. I bragged on them. Everybody's envious of us in this district. We're leading Dorchester too. I go to my evaluation, and I run the assistant superintendents, and Ms. Powell, you're doing a fabulous job, but we think you might be a little too competitive. The other superintendent said, well, why do you think's driving our whole district is his competitor? They can't keep up with the man. And she said, well, that was it. They feel inferior to you because you keep doing all these things. I said, well, they can do the same things I do. One of the elementary schools has got a zoo, a petting zoo. I'm thinking, well, that's great. The kids are eating it up, and it's a wonderful thing. Why not think of that? I didn't think of no petting zoo. Of course, teachers had to maintain the pens and all that. I'm thinking teachers don't need anything extra on their plate. So I come back and I announced to my faculty, they said, please tell us we're not going to be doing a zoo. I said, oh, no, we're not doing a zoo. Barnum Bailey is selling out some stuff. I'm buying a big tent. We're going to do a circus theme here. And of course, I was joking. We ended up putting in an environmental park. and we had the trees labeled and those old mud bike trails and things. Right. Sharing that leadership, giving everybody else a voice. For making decisions, I'd include my parents. I actually had my students in second grade. I'd call a meeting with them, and all the teachers had to stay in the room. I'd call them in by pods, and we voted on. I got some money one year, power money. Of course, PTA wastes a lot of money, and so I decided we need some playground equipment. And the teachers didn't want that. They wanted other programs, and they wanted other things. You know, the music teacher wanted this, the art teacher wanted that. They all wanted the money individually. They all wanted like $1,000 a teacher to buy stuff to hang up in the room and stuff like that, $2,000. I'm going, no, we're not. This is a pot of money, and I got to buy something that's going to last. And why are we here? We're here for the kids. Right. Look at our playground. We got the worst playground in summer. We're the top school. We got every academic program known to man. We are the academic powerhouse. Yes, we are. These are young children, and they need to have fun. So I call the children in, and they picked. I do the slides of all the stuff, and they picked all the stuff. They soon realized we're doing what the children want. Mr. Second graders can't make that decision. Sure they can. Does anybody ask them? Right. These kids will tell you what they want. Yes, they will. But they kicked the sliding board, and I was disappointed. So I said, I'm going to surprise them. So I got the biggest sliding board you could buy. The tumbling. We go in through the thing. And so we went to showcase it. We took the tarp off, and the kids were all outside. They didn't know I was in there. I slid down the slide first, and the children were like, wow. My wife, she was a teacher. At night, she was being considered for the principalship. They had her there interviewing her, and the superintendent came out, and I'm sitting there because I had to do a presentation to the board, so I'm sitting out there doing some busy work, and he comes by, and I said, this is a long executive session. And I knew Patsy was up on one of them. I said, is there a problem with Patsy? Yes, there is a problem. I said, what is it? They are very concerned that you're very competitive and you're very successful. But they see her as possibly outdoing you. And they don't want a divorce on their hands. And they're all saying, you're not going to be able to handle this. They're more worried about you, not her. They're pleased with her. They think we're going to lose you over her. And so I said, oh, absolutely not. There won't be any conflict. Well, there was, indirectly. The only disadvantage for her, she told everything she was going to do at Oak Brook. She told me, I didn't tell anything. I took what she had to make sure I topped it. And so it was competitive. And it didn't seem to her that way, but it did to me. I saw how good it was. I lost 14 teachers to her. And they were all ones I had hired, top teachers. So I knew I was in trouble with those 14. And then right off, after about the third or fourth year, here she comes. How am I to sign this? And I'm like, well, I was the first to win it. I started all this. And so by that time, I was in personnel. And but she was very supportive of me in personnel. Of course, if I had a problem with her, there was a conflict. People didn't understand the conflict. What the conflict that I looked out with my wife and she got papers? No, it was the other way around. I'm not doing it. That's what she tell me. I'm not doing that. Don't send me another teacher like that. I want the top teacher that y'all have there. I said, well, I can't send you all the good teachers. I got to spread them out. We got some schools that really need some help. Your school's in good shape. Well, yeah, you think it's in good shape, but I want it in better shape. Didn't you have a philosophy? You wanted the very best? Well, I want the same thing. She kept me on my toes the whole time, and it was never really the conflict was, I don't keep winning her over because she was, all the other people fell in line, but it was like, here I go. I go out to her school and deal with her. I got to tell her that this teacher's going to be moved, whether she likes it or not. It grew, and we support each other well. I mean, everything we did, we shared so many stories alike, and I got a lot from her because she was very much more involved in curriculum than me. And she did all this innovative, creative stuff that nobody was doing, even in South Carolina. And she became the #1 school in the state.
We have created a nice little section of the school. If you walk towards the front lobby, you'll see a nice little corner there. So there's a nice corner, and there's some pictures there. And I challenge all of you guys to stop by and look at the pictures. Okay, so next year, for the 6th graders now and the 7th graders, it will be completed for all of you guys to see. We challenge you guys to go there, take a book out, read, do some work, okay? It's a nice little section to honor a man that has put his blood, sweat, heart, and tears into this school district for this school district for 49 years, but overall 52.
We put children first in all our decision making, and we did it as a team. Everybody was involved. We were all on board, just like you were here with your team doing this filming. That's what I was surrounded by. Our whole goal was always focused on the kids. You've got to have teachers who are committed and teachers who have that philosophy. That was one of my successful things too. Picking teachers who shared the philosophy that children come first and that no stone will be left unturned. No child fails if we can possibly do it. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I instill this. And I celebrated every time there was any kind of success, no matter how small, we celebrated it.
In 2012, you were named South Carolina Superintendent of the Year. What did that honor represent you personally?
I was just so taken back that I won this thing. I had no idea, until they called me for an interview. And I went to the interview. One of the people interviewing was the state assistant superintendent. And I'd known him when he was principal. And he told me after I won that day, he called me that afternoon. And said, I just need to tell you, I've never interviewed teachers and people like I did with you and your interview and your whole resume. It just jumped down the page. I can't tell you anything you need to work on. You just have dropped down the ballpark. And I didn't try to do that. It was just, like I said, I was driven. And that was just an honor that I wasn't expecting. And but I sure appreciate it because it was another validation. It was like the good housekeeping seal. In other words, it said again, Dorchester 2 is the top district. Here's the superintendent of the year is coming from Dorchester 2. What else have we heard of Dorchester 2? Right. How many Palmetto's finest have these people now won? I mean, they're not here.
But it's a good thing, isn't it?
And all those things, and I know they're just real things along the way, but anytime we thought we could validate our people, how hard the teachers worked, how good the principals were. If I had a principal that I had to get on their case, one occasion I did, I would consider them my weakest link, a superstar in another district. That's how good my staff was.
Right. So, and it shows. To this day, it still shows.
First of all, you've got to involve the community and in decision making. If you're in a leadership role, you can't do it by yourself. You need a team. You need to get different voices. And then you try to get the best solution. It may not be what one group wants. And then you got to be able to sell to that group why you made that choice so they can buy into it too, because you got to have buy-in. And then the buy-in fuels selling to other people, and that's how it makes it work. So it's, again, the team, getting people involved, getting people engaged, getting people to want to do it, not because they're forced to do it, but we want to do this because this is the right thing to do. We got something good going on here. We need to get it out front and need to encourage this. When the stew had all the good publicity, I never had to worry about an opening for a job. If I had one opening, nobody ever quit on me. They had to retire. And when they did, I have 50 people to choose from, all top notch. I got to pick the very best. And so I was always upping the ante. You lose a good teacher, but I would replace it with somebody equally as good, if not better. My whole goal was to always make it better and better and better. So you build. There are a lot of things that we built along the way that you couldn't see it until we won these awards. It was obvious. The judges that came through were just smitten. They would tell me, we've never seen the faculty like this. Right. This faculty's wonderful, and they love you to death. And I says, really? He said, yes, they love you to death. And in interviewing you, it was obvious you give them all the credit. And said, that's not heard of here. Leaders like to take the credit, but you give them the credit, but they deserve the credit. Without them, we would achieve nothing. But my job was to pick the right person, train them, motivate them, and just bring out the best in them and praise them. Poor teachers are just overwhelmed. Right. And everybody has a strength. And if you play their strength up, it'll overcome the weakness that they might have. And I found so many teachers that had some weaknesses that were glaring down through the years that suddenly went away because we built on their strengths. Right. And people had such a respect for them, for the good things they were doing. There was always room for improvement. And tomorrow's another day to be better. Maybe schedule a child middle part of the year going into first grade. They couldn't read. They couldn't do anything. They were so far behind. There was no way that I could see them as a second grader. But I didn't, like I said, you don't fail in my school. So I would pick the best teacher I had. She said, Mr. Pye, I have 30 children. Everybody else has 25. I said, well, you will have 31 because you're the best teacher I got. And this child needs help now. All right. Then I'd go and get the Title I teacher. You have to have special things to get in. The child didn't qualify. I want you to serve the child in the title class. You have extra reading support. I just need you to help me. Then I'd go and get the resource teacher. We can't put children in here that's not qualified. I'm not trying to test the child. I think the child's smart. The child got a lot of ability. They just hadn't been taught. We're going to teach them. We're going to pull them up. And I taught the children. I would bring the child in and I would work with them. All of us together, and that child was in the second grade. You can't do it alone. You need everybody. You need to bring on the community, the administration, the faculty, and most important, the students. And you got to just keep it child-centered. How can we help children to grow? And education's really changing. The parenting situation is so different now. Right. Children, the best hope they got, many of them, is school. Let's embrace that. And I get away from this. I can't save them all. Sure you can. Give it a try. If they were your own children, do what you would do for your own child for these other children. When Patrick began his career as a teacher, I wasn't sure how he was going to do in education. He's chosen this, but I don't see him anywhere in the league or his mother or myself. I think Patrick doesn't have a clue what he's getting into. And then he came home one day and he was just crying. He said, I'm so upset. I have a child that doesn't have any food. I never experienced divorce, Daddy. I've never experienced not having food. I've never experienced anything negative. And that's all I'm surrounded by. And I've got to help these kids.
And hearing him talk about Patrick, and the beginnings with Patrick, where he didn't know if Patrick was going to be able to make it, watching and to where Patrick is now. And me being able to sit with Patrick every day and see what Patrick does every day at work. And then sitting down with Mr. Pye and hearing his story, the first one to get to work, the last one to leave, a team philosophy. We probably could have spent hours, and as a law enforcement officer, I have the team approach mindset myself. No one of us is as strong as all of us. It's something that my sheriff talks about often. With our agency, it's transparency, unity, and accountability. And sitting down with Mr. Pye, it's kind of the same traits. Recognizing that I can't be to where I'm at if it wasn't for my team.
So proud. I would tell my wife, I said, can you believe this? Can you believe this is Patrick? Well, I'm very proud of him because he too is one of the top scoring schools in the state. They have a great reputation. I've seen his reports that the state makes us do, the student climate, the parent climate, the teacher climate. He is the highest in the district by far, probably one of the highest in the state. The teachers love him. They respond to him. Community does. And therefore the students do. It's all a family. And he's built that family there together. And I think that's what I'm most proud of. And Patrick too was a business administration major, but at the last bit he minored in education, so he was able to get certified too. But he grew. I saw him grow every year as a teacher. Those first couple of years that he was a technical person at Greg, and how much he enjoyed it. The comments the principals would make to me about him, and then the board made him assistant principal. They didn't even leave the room. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't push it one way or the other to discuss it with anybody. They wanted it. And same thing when they made me principal of Rollins. I was asked to leave the room and tell my wife, any of my family members, and I had to have an assistant superintendent or someone else in charge of them. I could not evaluate them. If I have a negative that I worry about with Patrick is I wasn't probably supportive enough as he began his career as principal at Rollins, because I didn't want anybody to say it was a conflict of interest. So I stayed out of the school. I probably visited twice. I've been to all the other schools dozens of times. I went to Rollins maybe twice. I was very careful that people didn't see me just walking around with Patrick fraternizing. But again, he's a principal. I did it with all the other principals, and that wasn't fair to him, right, to do less than that. But so that would probably be the only thing that I would have done differently. But again, it's worked itself out, because I think it taught him to grow up and be independent on his own. And he didn't need me for anything. He rarely ever asked me for advice. And we had a rule in our family when we were together. Let's don't discuss school, Patrick. I don't want to hear about that parent gave him fits at school. I don't want to hear about the child that did something crazy they should not have done. I can't handle it. I can't fix it. And as superintendent, special roles, I don't need to know that, because I have a need to fix everything. And I can't be in your school meddling in your business. So y'all need to know how to handle it. And so he would consult with his mother about different things. And she wouldn't tell me, but I'd find out, Peter, well, what was all that about? Well, when were y'all going to tell me about this? Well, you were the one with the rule. We don't discuss school business. And I know that shared leadership style and bringing people on board and being a motivator, all those things are important in a team player. But the most important thing, I think, to success in any profession, particularly education, is passion. And that's what he does have.
So let me ask you, how does it sound if I invite Patrick to sit down with us
To bring him on.
and have some conversation?
Bring him on. I can take him on.
You take him on? You could take Patrick on?
I'm an only child, and so both my parents were, when I remember growing up, they were both already at a high level. They'd already made it to principal growing up, and so that was just the life that we lived. And I didn't always understand it, the late hours, the weekend commitments, and things like that. Not at a really young age, but I grew to understand exactly what that was about later on. And I guess just watching, well, both of them. My mom's a distinguished principal as well. Has won a lot of awards, so Dad gets a lot of the attention, but Mom has definitely made her mark on education, and has been the backbone of the family, certainly, and keeps things going here. But I guess it's, for me, watching the work ethic and the dedication that they had to the field of public education, because it's selfless and it's tireless, and they had a passion for what they did, and super competitive also. Back then, there were only 3 elementary schools that were the top tier schools, and Mom's not going to like this part, but Flowertown was number 1, Somerville Elementary was number 2, and her school, which was brand new, up and coming, was number 3. But it did not stay number 3 for very long. But it was very competitive in the house. It was in a positive way, not anything negative, but I got to be around a lot of conversation, a lot of professional conversation at a young age, and see how they interact. And I guess I've always been impressed with the keys to what I believe were to their success, which was surrounding themselves with talent, hiring the best and brightest out there, and keeping that talent. And that's by just treating people the right way, treating people with respect, validating what they do. And that just right there creates organically a high level of morale in the school building. And so they do that in such a effortless way. And so I strive to try to do those things in what I do based on what I saw from them, because I certainly do not know all the answers to everything at all. And I believe in the team approach, and I learned this from them. And you hire the best and the brightest. You work together. You make a decision that everybody can get on board with. And that's how you can be successful. And the school that he was at Flowertown, he created a family atmosphere. They're very, very tight knit. I think if you were to ask him any job that he could go back and do again, I think he would pick that one, principal of Flowertown.
And teacher at Rollins.
Teacher at Rawlings.
he had more influence at the superintendent level. It's not as tight knit as like a school building, but he also tried to build that sense of community and family in a much larger circle at the district office. And I think that kind of sets him apart from others. And if I can, I'd like to digress real quick. I think I'll kind of connect the dots if I share just a little personal story. Going back to like the late 80s, it had to be like 1987 or 1988, something like that. I'm sitting at Flowertown Elementary School as a second grader. Of course, Dad is my principal, and I'm in Miss Rosemary Ward's second grade class, and there was an assignment. I don't even remember what the assignment really was, and I had to write this thing. Of course, my handwriting's pathetic, and so but I write this document, and it was my favorite person or my favorite relative or something like that. And so I wrote this document, and so I wrote it about him. I wrote it about Dad. And it says in there, I recently reread it so I could try to remember all the bits and pieces. And it basically says that I want to grow up to be a principal just like my dad. And I think he's the best principal in the world. And it says in there, I know a lot of principals. And it even says in there that Dad may try to get a job at the district office. I hope he becomes superintendent one day. Well, it's as ridiculous as that sounds, you fast forward all these many years later and look at those things. And that document got filed away in a scrapbook or something like that, but some 25 plus, maybe 30 years ago, my mom pulled it out and framed it, and it hung in Dad's office. I don't know if it was in there as a personnel director, but I know it was in there when you were assistant superintendent, and it was in there until you retired. So I think that kind of speaks to that influence. I mean, the influence that he has had with being a mentor, a great leader, and just a fabulous person.
One quick thing, when I was personnel director, Patrick would go with me, and I'll never forget, we went to Boone, North Carolina, to Appalachian State to recruit. And Patrick was the only child, of course, standing but the 50 recruiters, and he would help put the pencils out, and I gave his gifts and helped me organize. Of course, he's wearing a suit just like I am. And so I look around, and Patrick's sitting at the table emulating what I'm doing with the people. And suddenly I said, Patrick, it's getting real busy here now, and you might want to go back to the room and rest. So he goes to the room. I come back to the room, and I can't get the door to open because the table's pulled up there. He is the recruiting table. He's got his stuff on the table. He is playing personnel director. And I said, well, I had might have put something.
If you could tell your father one thing about the influence he had on your life and your career, what would it be?
Well, I think I'd have to say thank you. Not only just for the influence professionally, but also personally. It wasn't always easy growing up in my house. It was very loved, but it was also some tough love in there, which I look back on now and I greatly respect and appreciate that. I needed that extra direction and coaching, or else there's no telling what in the world I would be doing. I certainly wouldn't be doing the job that I'm doing now. And so I would like to say thank you for that, and for his many years of service. It's so commendable and admirable, and I'm incredibly proud.
And then, of course, he mentioned some other people here because he heard me talk about it at home, and I questioned that, wonder what his opinion. But it sounds like he knows these people because I've obviously spoken well of them. One of them not so well. And I'm like, you realize what kids are picking up. And that's when my wife said, well, we have to be very careful that we don't share anything negative around Patrick at all. And of course, when he'd come home those first couple of years of teaching, as he began his teaching career, he would tell us about the different stories. And of course, the whites, where the kids were struggling, needed support, no food in the house. And Patrick's if we come into your house, you come in, she was embarrassed. There's no place for the child to do homework. There's no place, a table or anything. In the cupboard was one canned good. No bed, except on the floor, a mattress on the floor. The father just up and left them. And the mother had no job, and they were completely out of money and everything. Of course, Patrick was over himself, and he said he was on his own. I had a board member call me and said, I'm giving Patrick $100. Or, well, I said, Patrick, my Patrick? What do you mean you give him $100 for what? She said, the student that's having the problem. I said, yeah, I'm going to help him out with it too. And she said, no, well, all of us are. He's asked all the board to help. So, already out front, who would have the nerve as a second or third year teacher to check with all 7 board members and ask them to contribute to this fund to help this woman? And of course, he raised a lot of money to help that family. And we had an old student desk we found at Rollins and redid it over and presented it to the child in his room. The kid turned completely around. Got the mother some support, money coming in and all. It just, that was probably the turning point in his education, because it was not just about reading, writing, and math, which is what we're all there for. It's about children. It's about people, engaging people to help each other. And that's what Patrick began to see. I can't do this alone, so let me go get these board members and other people, and you win them over. They need to know what's going on in these schools. They need to know we've got children that are really hurting. And every one of these kids that come up with discipline and stuff, they've done some terrible things, but they're a victim to their circumstances, and we forget that sometimes. So that was really a turning point. What it was. It's true.
Let's give a huge round of applause for Mr. Pye. You can take a seat now. Thank you.
But tell him, I thought everything I've seen so far today has been fabulous.
Simply